name is Kuldeep Singh Mann. Today is the 9th of August 2014. In 1984, I was about 30 years old. I used to work as a millwright in a food processing plant in Canada. I was in Abbotsford in June 1984 when I heard about the attack being committed on Sri Harmandir Sahib, and I had two children, and we were very, very upset. It gave us sleepless nights. It was very hurtful torture to the minds. And at that time we felt, or I felt, if I had the weapon or capability, I would oppose the Indian government action in any way that I could. We had heard about the attack on the television through the CBC. As Canadian Broadcasting Corporation. They were recording that the Sikh temple was attacked because it was occupied or taken over by the terrorists. And we also knew and felt Bhindranwale or their followers who were Sikhs, that Sikhs will not commit any terrorist act, and had always felt that the Sikh organizations were infiltrated by either the government agents or Pakistani agents that were discrediting the good Sikh way of life. A good Sikh, we felt, will never attack any innocent person anywhere in the world. They were showing basically a little bit because the Indian government had banned all broadcasting, and they had forbidden any journalist from visiting. And what I had seen on the TV was there was a Sikh. It was shown to be a Sikh soldier, and who was being forced by other soldiers to hold a gun in his hand. It seemed very obvious, even to this day can be seen on the YouTube, how demoralized that Sikh soldier felt, but the gun is being pushed into his hand to show like as they were fighting Sant Bhindranwale and their followers. That's how it was portrayed. It was shown kind of like Sikhs had taken part in attacking their own holy place. We definitely all felt it was definitely a propaganda of the government. Basically, my family, my wife, she was very much tortured just as much, and she felt the same thing. I'm sure if me and my wife were in India, we probably would have become extremists ourselves to oppose the actions of Indian government. We might have been killed by the Indian government as well, for simply because we could not control our emotions. Well, traumatic was that here there's so many visitors going to Harmandir Sahib on the auspicious celebration of their Guru's birthday, when the Indian government goes and attacks the Golden Temple. They could have taken that action few days before or few days after. They did not have to take that action when the whole place was full of congregation. And they killed children, women, and to this day, no statistic has ever been released as to how many people were killed. We all went to Gurdwara on Ross Street in Vancouver. There was a very large congregation. At the time, I did not understand, but today I feel there were probably Indian government agents who were instigating and making people do things that would be today considered unethical, unwise. They were compelling people to send telex to the president of the US and to the king of Saudi Arabia, and I sent them too because I fell in the same trap, asking them to help the Sikhs in India. Now, if those governments had done, then the Sikhs would have been labeled as separatist, as terrorist, because US and Saudi Arabia may have funneled weapons through Pakistan and create unstabilized situation, but they were not the real Sikhs. Real Sikhs did not want to have anything to do with any kind of terrorism. But somehow, sometimes people get entrapped, and I felt we were emotionally entrapped, and there were thousands and thousands of other people entrapped. And we also held demonstrations in Vancouver. There were long marches and speeches. But it was all emotional. I was too naive, too innocent to try and understand. I was just a young man who had come to Canada to earn his living. I was working 16, 20 hours a day. We didn't have time for any of those things. But it's just when you know that your house has been attacked by somebody, your family members have been killed, you do not have control over yourself. And this is how I felt. All those Sikhs who were getting killed, children, innocent mothers and sisters at the Harmandir Sahib, we had no control over. We wanted to react. I wanted to take a gun and kill maybe all the Indian consulate staff if I could, because I would not have been myself. I was a lost person. I was a mad person. Yeah. I think most of the community felt there were thousands and thousands of people. I believe they were in Robson Square, wherever there was space available. There was, I think literally I would say 95% of the Sikh community had gathered in Vancouver at the time. And you could see people were crying and people were very emotional. I was no different than anybody else. So Sikhs had a less value than even an animal. And that is how the Indian government was portraying Sikhs are nothing but terrorists. I think I only took part in probably one or two, and then we got back in our work. We may have attended some ceremony in Abbotsford, but I think I only went to one meeting at Ross Gurdwara and one of the main meetings in Vancouver. Actually, when we went to the demonstration, my wife was with me. We had our children with us, so all of us were there. And it was just heard on the TV. And we felt it was shameful, it was bad. We might have attended a rally. Maybe we did, maybe we didn't. I just can't remember, but it was pretty sickening to know that how Sikhs were butchered all over India, where Sikhs never killed any innocent Hindus. I was still living in Abbotsford, but I think in '84 I had my own small business of furniture manufacturing. It was just again from basically watching the TV, whether it was CBC or maybe one of the American channels. We're always changing the channel, whichever channel has the news. We just wanted to hear more as to what's going on. and it was just shocking that our Hindu brothers would ever do such thing to the Sikhs, because we've never treated Hindus as as separate from ourselves. But when they attacked, I sure felt not wanting to go and ever see a Hindu movie or even buy anything from a Hindu store. Well, we just heard that the Hindus were attacking Sikhs and they were killing all over, and the military took no action to prevent or stop, or the police. It seemed like the talk was that at the time Rajiv Gandhi was appointed as a prime minister after his mother. That since he was the prime minister, he took zero action, but encouraged. And then we heard the Indian president's interest was also attacked, and the police did not stop. So if the Indian president, who happened to be a Sikh, was attacked, what security could have been provided to an ordinary Sikh anywhere within India? And to this day, after 30 years, nobody has ever been prosecuted or sent to jail for killing any Sikhs. What justice can we ever expect? What respect can we ever really truly hold in our mind where there is no justice? So, since I'm a Canadian citizen, I've never felt being part of India any longer. I'm proud to be a Canadian Sikh. Originally, they had elections over there, and they had asked a question to Rahul if he would apologize to the Sikhs for the actions of 1984, and he simply said, "No, I don't need to. I was not the Prime Minister then. It was my father." Well, it just happened so that we have no relatives left in India. Everybody's gone out. Like Guru Nanak Dev Ji had said to the good families ਕਿ ਇਹ ਸਾਰੇ ਉੱਜੜ ਜਾਣ, ਸੋ ਸਾਰੇ ਸਾਡੇ ਪਰਿਵਾਰ ਤੋਂ ਉੱਜੜ ਕੇ ਸਾਰੀਆਂ ਦੂਸਰੀਆਂ ਹੋਰ ਕੰਟਰੀਆਂ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਸੈਟਲ ਹੋ ਗਏ. Now they're making other countries prosperous around the world. That's a loss for India, where they would have made India a prosperous country. I had come to Canada in 1981, and I struggled first of all for very many years. And then eventually, when I was a little bit grounded, I decided to go back to India to pay a visit to my mother and father. My younger brother also lived there. This was back in 87 or 88. Took my eldest daughter, Kirpa, with me. When I went to get visa, they told me that some Saab wanted to see you inside the office. So when I went inside, he asked me, he said, "Mr. Mann, we have you on the list of the activist people." And I was quite shocked. I did not know what he meant by activist. What do you mean by activist? He said people who are supporting Khalistan, or people who are part of the terrorist network. And I was very shocked. And I was pretty upset. So I said to him, I said, "You know what? First of all, the dogs you have standing outside, they do not know how to treat humans." So he asked me, "What dogs out there?" I said, "Well, your security guards. They act worse than bulldogs." And he's looking at me like a guy who doesn't know what the hell he's talking about. And then I told him, far as the activist goes, I'm a Canadian citizen. I have nothing to do with India whatsoever. Since you guys attacked my holy place, I'm totally alienated myself from the Indian fabric. Now, as a Canadian citizen, if I was given a machine gun and I was a soldier in the Canadian forces, I will not think twice if I'm ordered to kill the Indian soldiers. I would I will not let my bullet be wasted. After I visit my family, I will be back in my own country. You want to give me a visa, you can do so. You want to refuse to give me a visa, well, I don't have to go. And he was so shocked. He said, Mr. Mann, I haven't had anybody walk in here and talk so truthfully. He said, well, you can have a visa for long as you want because I do not see you as any kind of a threat or an activist or a terrorist in any fashion. You're just an honest man. I feel the Indian political parties, political leaders, the justice system still has a void in there that they need to fill and show little respect to the Sikh community by either submission of their guilt that they had done wrong and let some sort of memorial be built in the memory of all those people who were victims of genocide portrayed by the or created by the Indian government. It was definitely not the work of our Hindu brothers.